So, welcome today to our virtual boardroom titled Understanding the Impact of Menopause at Work, that is being facilitated by HR Recruit and Ali O'Grady. My name's Jo Thompson and I'm a consultant for HR Recruit. I'm joined today by Ali, who will introduce herself shortly. Ali is going to explore the business case for supporting menstruation and menopause at work and the steps you can take to foster open conversations to create a supportive environment where individuals and businesses can thrive. If you've got any burning questions during the session, then please put them into the chat box facility and we will cover them as we go along. I'm now going to hand you over to Ali, who will introduce herself and start the event. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this event today. Thanks very much for the introduction, Jo. So today we're going to be talking about the impact of menstruation and menopause at work. And just a few words about me. So my name's Ali Grady. I'm the co-founder and director of the Thrive team, which is a talent acquisition and people development agency based in West Sussex. We're based in Selsey. So my background is in HR. I've held positions in large organisations, Boots, the NHS, BBC. I became really interested in mental health in the workplace through the work that I've done in those organisations, and trained to be a mental health first aid instructor about 8 years ago now. And more recently, through my own sort of personal experiences, and because it is a burning topic as well, I've become interested in menopause in the workplace. So I'm going to start with some details about myself that I wouldn't perhaps normally use as part of my introduction, but I had a hysterectomy at 42.
I'm on a
I
call.
was sorry, I'm just gonna somebody's on just put somebody
Can
on
everyone
mute.
just make sure that they're on mute, please?
So sorry. So I had a hysterectomy at 42. I'd had endometriosis for all of my adult life, and when I had that hysterectomy, I was immediately put onto HRT, and I ticked along for a number of years really nicely, and not struggling too much. And then one day I sort of ran out of HRT. I'd been on it for about 10 years at that point, so I was sort of early 50s, and thought, right, well, okay, let's see what happens if I don't take it. And within a year, I was really, really struggling. I decided with my husband I was going to give up work. And not only was I sort of struggling at work, I was struggling in life in general. And, being quite honest, I sort of had some suicidal thoughts as well. But I took some positive steps. I saw a menopause consultant, and I've got on to a really good regime of HRT for me. And so now I sort of hope that I like to think that I'm thriving. Important to say that what I'm going to be talking to you about during this session is sort of general research around sort of menopause and menstruation. I don't have any medical training, so if you've got any medical questions, I'm probably not the best person to ask. But this is what we're going to be covering in the session. It's really just raising that general awareness of what some of those common conditions of menstruation, raising awareness around menopause, the stages, the common symptoms and treatments, and really to sort of start to explore what the business case is, and why you might be here today. I guess you're interested perhaps for yourselves, but also for your the businesses and the organisations that you work in. And we'll be exploring those considerations that you might need to take to create a menstruation and menopause friendly organisation. And we're going to be sharing some resources with you as well towards the end of the session. So what do we mean when we talk about menopause? Well, I know it is a topic that we are talking about a lot more, but I think even for many people that go through menopause, they don't necessarily know what it is themselves. Perhaps they're not so familiar with the symptoms because there's a general lack of education. So let me just share the next slide with you. What we've got here is a slide that shows a a menopause transition. And just a note around inclusion and language that I use today. I may use the word women, but when I talk about women, people who menstruate, go through menopause, that can of course apply to anyone that was born with female organs. So, but if I use the terminology women, that's it's sort of I'm using that very generally. So let's have a look. Premenopause then is that that period in time that a number of years where a woman is in her prime childbearing years, having a menstrual cycle, which may or may not be regular, and there are no noticeable signs of menopause. On average, people who menstruate will have around 480 periods in their lifetime on a typical cycle that can last between 23 and 38 days. And when I talk about things being typical, I think we'd probably also all argue that there isn't such thing as typical. It is different for everyone. We're going to explore the other stages of menopause shortly, but before we do that, I want to sort of just sort of feature on some of the gynecological conditions that can occur in the pre-menopause stage and that might be affecting some of the people that are within your organization. So many women can spend over 30 years in this pre-menopause stage. So that's equates to a lot of time experiencing some difficulties if you are the person that is experiencing some of these disorders. It's estimated between 5 to 8% of women experience moderate or severe symptoms that don't have any noticeable impact on their lives. But of course, there are a good number of people that do experience these conditions, and it does have a significant impact. So let's start off with dysmenorrhea, which is severe menstrual pain, enough to interfere with daily life. So the average onset is between 12 and 14. Discomfort typically begins for a few hours, but may last up to a day, and it can impact the individual on how they're feeling. Endometriosis, I mentioned that I had experienced endometriosis for many, many years. 10% of women are affected, and this is where tissues similar to the lining of the womb grows outside of the womb, causing pain and other symptoms such as fatigue, digestive problems, difficulty concentrating, bowel, bladder issues, bloating, painful sex. It can also lead to infertility. The average time for diagnosis in the UK is between 8 and 10 years, and it really is a bit of a postcode lottery. I think Wales average is 10 years. It varies around the United Kingdom. Endometriosis can only be diagnosed through a surgical procedure called a laparoscopy, and in a survey conducted by the Endometriosis Association, 51% of women reported that endometriosis symptoms had affected their ability to work, and 42% reported missing work because of their symptoms. So we move on to adenomyosis. 20 to 35% of women are affected, and this is where the lining of the womb starts to grow in the muscle wall of the womb, and that causes very painful periods, heavy bleeding, pelvic pain, bloating, again, pain during sex, and is more commonly diagnosed in women over 30, although it can affect anyone who has periods. We move on to uterine fibroids then. 1 in 3 women affected. They're the most common benign tumour that can affect a woman. Infertility, heavy or irregular bleeding, dysmenorrhea, repeated pregnancy loss due to miscarriage or premature childbirth, pain in the pelvis and lower abdomen, and enlargement of the abdomen are typical symptoms. PCOS, polycystic ovarian system, 1 in 10 women affected. This is a hormonal disorder with a range of symptoms, including irregular periods, acne, and weight gain. Premenstrual syndrome, 30% of women affected, characterized by mood swings, feeling upset, anxious, irritable, tiredness, trouble sleeping, bloating, tummy pain, breast tenderness, headache, greasy hair, sorry, changes in appetite and sex drive. And then premenstrual dysphoric disorder includes all of the symptoms of premenstrual syndrome, but the symptoms tend to be more severe and can include low mood and even suicidal thoughts. So just hearing those lists of symptoms for any of those diagnoses, that's going to have a significant impact on somebody's life in general, not just outside of work, but at work as well. And all of those things can lead to the people that are suffering from it to have a loss of confidence, a lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence and ability to concentrate or focus, and that's going to lead to increased or loss of productivity and increased absence. So, something to think about. And, whilst we are starting to talk about menopause in the workplace, I think we've probably got a bit more of a journey to go with menstruation health as well. So, yeah, something for you to think about and reflect on for your own organisations. So let's move back to the menopause then. You're probably quite familiar with three stages of menopause. Perimenopause, which is the first stage of the transition, where the levels of reproductive hormones begin to change and the woman's menstrual cycle becomes irregular. They have symptoms of menopause, but periods haven't stopped. So perimenopause ends as you reach menopause when you've not had a period for 12 months. So menopause, average age for reaching the menopause in the UK is 51. So this is the second stage. This is when the body stops producing hormones that cause ovulation and menstruation and menstrual periods. So menopause then is when your periods stop due to lower hormone levels. It usually affects women between the ages of 45 and 55, but it can happen earlier. And women of colour tend to go through menopause in their late 40s, so that slightly earlier age, with factors such as stress and resulting from racism contributing towards that earlier transition. So menopause is defined as 12 months after your last period. So you won't know that it's your last period until at least 12 months have passed. So you could stop periods at 11 months, have another period, and then the clock starts ticking again. And it's important to use contraception during that time. Menopause can happen naturally for reasons or for reasons such as surgery or to remove the ovaries, such as an oophorectomy, or to remove the uterus, which is a hysterectomy. Cancer treatments and chemotherapy or genetic reasons can also cause menopause as well. So premature menopause is defined as menopause that starts before the age of 40, and this occurs in between 1% and 3% of women. It may happen earlier as a result of premature ovarian insufficiency. And then we get to the post-menopause stage. So this begins 12 months after the last period, and when the woman is no longer ovulating and won't be able to conceive naturally. And women could spend between 30 and 50 years of their lives in this stage. So it's important to remember that every woman's experience of menopause is unique and different. There are no set age limits or time limits or symptoms for anybody that goes through this, and it's important to recognise that everyone's experience will be very different. Half the UK workforce, 16 million people are women over the age of 16. So there are potentially a lot of people in the workplace who are struggling with symptoms of either menstrual health or menopause symptoms. Hey, so who's affected by the menopause? And it'd be great for you to get involved in the chat here. Just some thoughts about who you think is either directly affected by the menopause or who's indirectly affected. What do you think? People are thinking, I didn't come to do any work. I've just come to listen. Oh, somebody's
Oh,
saying they don't have any sound. Um, I think that I'm guessing other people have got sound. So Debbie, it sounds like it's an issue at your end. So what have we got? We've got everyone in the workplace, partners, yes, directly. It will be you, your partner, your family, everyone, family, yeah, everybody directly at work and around you. Yes, yeah. So yeah, let family and colleagues as well. Yes, okay. So let's have a look. Directly. Um, we've got transgender people, people whose gender is different from the sex that they were assigned at birth, intersex people, people who have differences in sex development, who don't conform to the typical definitions of male or female bodies, and people whose gender is neither male nor female and who identify as non-binary. Um, and then directly, we've got a lot of what you've said. So indirectly, we've got family, friends, partners, managers, team leaders, sorry, team managers or team members, and the whole organization. So important also to note that people who are neurodiverse may experience new challenges or feel their current challenges relating to sensory sensitivities, executive functioning, or emotional regulation are intensified during the menopause. Um, and you may not be experiencing menopause yourself. But you are very likely to be close to someone either at work or at home that is struggling with that transition. So organisations should view the menopause as an organisation-wide issue and not just a gender issue. Let's have a look at some of those symptoms then. Again, I've got a few sort of prompts there. What sort of symptoms of menopause can you think of? And I'm going to be quite honest. When I was younger, my education around menopause was woefully inadequate. I don't remember anything at school. I am 56 now, so I'm going back quite a few years, but I don't remember anything at school, and my mum would have found it very embarrassing, so she didn't talk about it. She's sort of 85 now, so she's from that era where, you didn't talk about those sorts of things. So, what I learned about the menopause when I was younger was I probably just thought about hot flushes. I think that was probably all I knew, or sort of those whispered, "Oh, she's going through the change," that type of thing. So I think we are a lot more educated around the symptoms now. There's certainly a lot more information freely available to us. So some of those symptoms then, I'm not going to read the screen out to you because you can sort of capture it and you'll get a copy of the slides after the session. But if you think about those symptoms that you can see on the screen, they're going to have an impact on people in the workplace. So if you've got hot flushes, that sudden sort of temporary warmth in your body that can be it can take quite a while to sort of calm that down. It might result in red skin, in sweating, can feel very embarrassing. Thinking about your workplace, if you wear a uniform, are there any adjustments that you can make to the adjustment to uniform? Do you allow that? If you are feeling chills, are you able to regulate the temperature where you're working? If somebody is having a interrupted night's sleep, because they're having hot flushes, because they are, feeling sensory issues, perhaps having urinary issues, they're having interrupted sleep, that's going to impact on their ability to concentrate at work. And there are lots of other symptoms as well that are really going to impact in the workplace: brain fog, concentration, memory problems. A lot of women experience anxiety as well, and mood changes. There are some lesser sort of common menopause symptoms that might include those greater sensitivities to taste, to smell, itchy ears, which is due to reduced estrogen levels, an increase in allergy, which is about the fluctuating hormones and the body's immune system releasing histamine as part of an allergic response, and sort of causing a sort of a cycle of more histamine release. Restless legs, dizziness, acid reflux, driving anxiety, and that's something I in particular have experienced, which can make it feel like your world is really, really reducing. So there was a report by the Fawcett Society, Menopause and the Workplace, and that report cited that almost half of women haven't approached their GPs, and 3 in 10 have seen delays in diagnosis when they have been to their GPs. We know that our NHS services are really sort of challenged, sort of with the resources that they've got. And what we also know is that many GPs aren't educated in the menopause as well. So only 4 in 10 women were offered HRT in a timely fashion. Important to say here, I think, that HRT isn't for everyone, but for people that do want to take it, I guess it should be an option. So thinking about all of those symptoms, the impact that that might have on people in the workplace, you know, it can feel a very lonely place when you're experiencing those. Supporting a colleague or a partner to attend a GP appointment would probably be, a good thing to do. So let's think about some of the common menopause treatments. And again, this probably won't be news to you. HRT is becoming more common. I think about 20 years ago, there was some research that suggested HRT could cause an increase in cancer. I think that research has now been sort of shown to not be accurate, and HRT is now a common menopause treatment. As I say, it is about choice for each individual, and obviously GP or private menopause consultants can prescribe it. Talking therapies can be helpful, complementary therapies can be helpful, and lifestyle adjustments, thinking about sleeping, what diet, thinking about how much alcohol or caffeine you might be drinking, and other stimulants, stimulants, cutting back on smoking, all the usual things that you would know to be good for you are some of the common menopause treatments. They are laid out in the NICE guidelines, and there are other sort of resources that you can look at, like the British Menopause Society, who help to sort of lay out what the treatments are available. And you don't need to know that as employers, but just to be familiar with them, so you can sort of include that in conversations that you might have for people to explore. We're going to launch our first poll now, just a confidential poll, really, and this is to just to get a sense from you about the support that you provide within your organisation. So I think Joe's going to launch the poll. It's anonymous. Just choose the statement that best describes your organisation. It's just interesting to see. This is about providing support to employees for menstrual health and menopause.
Do you want me to end that now, Ali?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
I'll
You,
just pop, can you see the
yeah.
results there? Yeah.
Yeah, great. So what have we got? 2% support for menstrual health only, 27% for menopause, 31% for both, and 41% not providing any support at the moment. And I guess that's why, some of you are here to perhaps find out a little bit more about that. Thanks, Tracy. No support, hence your work as a menopause advocate and women's health wellbeing advocate. Great. And Kate is saying that it's on a case by case basis. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Just really interesting, and I suppose those we ran this session last June or July, and very similar responses to then. So thank you for that. Okay, let's move on and look at some statistics. Gonna put some numbers up on the slide for you, and interested to just to get your thoughts on what you think those numbers might relate to. And if you're happy to write that in the chat, what might those numbers relate to? Do they ring any bells in anything you might have heard or read? Yeah, Emma, absolutely. 67 average retirement age. Yes, well done. 50% of people thinking about leaving work. Not quite right, Elaine, although I think I've probably just given a statistic out that suggested it wasn't far off. 50 days absent from work. No, that's not quite right. Anne, 51, age of menopause, 80, average lifespan. Right, let's get into some of those responses. So women over the age of 50 are the fastest growing demographic in the workplace. So women aged 50 to 64 are the fastest growing demographic in the workforce. Those experiencing menopausal symptoms can be forced to take long-term absence for an average of 32 weeks throughout their career. And that statistic has come from the CIPD, a guide to managing menopause at work. So 51, yes, is the average age at which a woman starts to experience the menopause. With many women not retiring until 67, so you got the retirement age right, and beyond. Most will go through the menopause during their working years, and menopause symptoms can last for many years post-menopause. And then the 80 is almost 80% of women, menopausal women, are in employment. So about 25% of people going through the menopause consider leaving their jobs because they find it difficult to deal with their symptoms. Many, in fact, do leave their jobs or reduce their working hours. Okay, and so I guess what those figures show us, and some of the statistics that I've already shared, is that we can't ignore this. And an analysis of the employment tribunal data shows that menopause-related employment tribunal cases have significantly increased year on year over the last 5 years, with the latest figure showing a massive 87% rise between April 2023 and March 2024. Now, we're still talking quite low numbers in terms of employment tribunals where menopause is quoted as a factor, but what we do know is it's on the increase. And despite menopause itself not being a protected characteristic, employers need to proceed with caution because any health condition, including menopause, may be considered a disability under the Equality Act if the symptoms have a detrimental impact on the employee's ability to carry out their role for longer than a period of 12 months. And what we've seen is that women can be in that period of post-menopause for and perimenopause for many, many years. So, you know, Helen, yes, the recording will be shared. Okay, let's move on then to the workplace impact on menstruation and menopause. So we've got significant costs really that are related to recruitment, absence, training, and that sort of whole loss of productivity. So more than 2/3 of women in the UK have bad experience at work because of their periods. In a survey of more than 2,000 women by the CIPD, 69% said they had a negative experience at work because of their menstrual symptoms. More than half said they'd had to miss work because of their period symptoms, with 1 in 5 taking sick leave. So we've got this increased absence and the costs relating to that. 3/5 said they'd worked when they didn't feel well enough to. So that's probably going to affect their productivity when they are at work. And 45% never tell their manager their sick leave is related to menstruation. And an estimated 14 million working days are lost each year to menopause, which equates to 1.8 billion in lost productivity. So unless we provide the right support for people that have issues with their menstrual health or menopause, then we're going to keep losing skilled, talented individuals, and that's going to sort of drive up costs for businesses. Research shows that the menopause is costing the UK workplace £10 million in women leaving the workplace, and hiring and retraining costs can spike in tandem. So the average cost of replacing an employee in the UK is around 25,000 per worker, and I suspect that's a very conservative estimate. So there are some real financial imperatives about why we should be supporting women's menstrual health and menopause at work. So although there is no legal requirement for an organisation to have a formal written menstrual health and or menopause policy, there are lots of advantages to employers, but also to employees to having one. So some employers choose to integrate information around the support that they provide into other legally required policies like equality and diversity, health and safety, discipline, dismissal, and grievance. Others choose to have a separate written policy, either a separate policy around menopause and a separate policy around menstruation, or combined, or one that just is for menopause. So and what's really important, no good having a policy unless people are aware of it, understand it, and that it's helpful to them. So in your policy you should be clear on the aims and the scopes of policy. You should include definitions of key terms like perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and give an overview overview of the common symptoms. It should include the responsibilities of the employer, but also the employee. What do you expect of them? And what do you expect of managers, occupational health, human resources, depending on the structure of your organisation. Should include information about risk assessments and any reasonable adjustments that might be helpful, and some tips for self-management around general health and well-being and sources of advice and support. In 2022, there was a poll that showed 86% of respondents were more likely to work for a company that provided menstrual health, menopause, and pregnancy-related support, because it puts everyone on, gives everyone clarity, creates transparency, and it makes it much easier for people to talk openly about it in the workplace. So, women are looking to work for organisations that provide that level of support. And again, the Fawcett Society, in their report Menopause in the Workplace, showed 8 out of 10 women say their employer hasn't shared information, trained staff, or put in place a menopause absence policy. So work to do. And I think from our own poll, 41% of you said that you had nothing in place as well. So as I say, work to do. So if that isn't enough about the business case, if I haven't given you enough sort of food for thought there around the statistics and the costs, you know, um, employee health and well-being and welfare should be a top priority for any organisation. And aside from the benefits to the organisation that have a positive approach to menopause at work, there is this business case for supporting employees around their menstrual health and menopause transition. And it's a strong case. It can help to reduce sickness related absence, it increases motivation, it improves employee loyalty, it retains experienced employees, and being proactive and removing the social stigma around menstrual health and menopause can also be good for an organisation's reputation and brand. It plays an important part in future proofing for employees who want to attract and retain diverse workforce that supports a inclusive culture, and it ensures that you're complying with the relevant legislation such as the Equality Act, the Employment Rights Act, and the Health and Safety at Work Act. But something that you sort of may have missed in the whole electioneering when the Labour Party came to power, the Labour Party manifesto pledges to strengthen rights to equal pay and protections for maternity, menopause, discrimination and sexual harassment, and it's committed to a new deal for working people, and that includes requiring employers with over 250 employees to develop and implement a menopause action plan. The action plan will detail how the company will support employees experiencing the menopause and giving positive provisions such as paid time off, uniform adjustments, temperature control in the workplace. So there's still more to come out on that, but the suggestion is also that employers will be required to submit their plans annually to the existing government portal that they use for gender pay gap. So, if you're not already doing something, then it would be good to get ahead of the game. And just if can you think of any other reasons why it would be good for your business, maybe from your own experience, about why businesses should be supporting people with their menstrual health or menopause transition? What business reasons can you think of that perhaps haven't already mentioned? See if you're awake. Moral, yeah, absolutely. We're all human, aren't we, Andrea? And it's yeah, morale, yeah. It's morally right, it's staff morale, it's the right thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and we don't want to be an organization that pays lip service, do we? We want to do it properly. Yeah, it's good for engagement. Absolutely, Kate. Thank you. Okay. So I think we've got our next and final poll, Joe. So this one is around training and the training that you might provide, which links
Bear
into
with
you,
me.
which links into Eugenie. Eugenie, I think we've met, haven't we? Online, virtually. Yeah, overall awareness for all employees. So this is about the training you may provide within your organization.
I'll stop that now.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. What have we got? So, training to people managers on menstruation health, only 4%, 17% on menopause only, 11% on both, and whopping 68% on neither. Wow. Thank you. That's great. Thank you, everyone. What Tamsin said, although we have a menopause nurse and support group, it's all voluntary and by word of mouth. Yeah. We've training available, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so question, should it be mandatory? I personally, I would say it is. If you're a manager, it should be mandatory these days. And let's have a look. So thinking about how you can create a supportive menstruation and menopause at work culture. Um, it well, there's not going to be anything new here that you haven't seen before. I think sometimes it's about being brave and doing it, and sometimes it relies on those few volunteers to bring up the mantle and sort of run with it. So it's about being open and inclusive. So that's about normalizing conversations about menstruation and menopause in the workplace, perhaps in one-to-ones, but probably starting with that general awareness. So work-life inclusion acknowledges that we bring our whole selves to work. If I think back to my days in my sort of 20s and 30s when I was really struggling with endometriosis and was with all of the embarrassing sort of symptoms that go with that. I wasn't talking about it at work. I had a male boss, and it didn't feel like something I could be overly open with him. Well, I was at times when I was having operations and stuff, but I felt like I couldn't be myself. I was probably hiding quite a lot that was going on for me, and we can't sort of really work productively if we're trying to keep something back. So it's about being open, inclusive, and bringing our whole selves to work. So it's about creating that awareness and tackling stigma. Menstruation and menopause are a normal part of life. So, perhaps talk about them in wellness blocks, have a dedicated area on your intranet with some information, resources that can be shared. Many organisations have EAPs, and EAPs have lots of information that could be helpful as well. So even if you can't create your own, can you, signpost to other resources that are available? Engaging in awareness days. Throughout the year can be helpful, and including references to menstrual health and menopause in your policies and guidance. You can sign workplace pledges as well. There are a number of organisations that have workplace pledges that show that you are a committed employer, and can offer guidance around some of the steps that you can take um, to sort of raise that awareness. It's about developing a supportive framework as well that might include a policy. It might include the support pathways available. It might include coaching or guidance and training and wellness programs. And if you are lucky enough to have private health insurance as part of your package, then there may well be some specific menopause support available through that as well. So again, it's all about signposting, reminding people, and it's about training and supporting people managers. Managers need to be confident and comfortable to have these conversations, and so training should include information about the diversity of menstruation, and the sensitivity, and sort of having information about menopause and understanding that as well. Managers should know where to refer to if necessary, occupational health or to HR, to external providers. And they're recognizing that there will always be some people who would choose not to talk about it with anybody. And appointing menopause champions. I think probably somebody in the chat alluded to menopause champions. They can be a good sort of signpost that you take the matter seriously, and that help is available. And all of the elements within this slide would form part of the menopause action plan that I mentioned. In terms of training, the Thrive team offers some training around the menstruation and menopause. It's a half-day course which gives that general awareness around common conditions that affect menstruation, common awareness around the menopause, the legal framework supporting menstruation and menopause, and how to have those supportive conversations as well. So just we're getting towards the end of the slides, but just to share some tips for supportive conversations. I think firstly, it's not about making any assumptions. I've given you some statistics about the average age of people going through menopause being 51, but what we've also seen is there are many people younger, and there will be people older who will go through at different times. So, and as we've talked about as well, menopause doesn't only affect women, but may also affect people who are transgender, non-binary, or intersex. So it's about giving options, giving people the option of who they'd like to speak to, whether that's their manager, a mentor, a colleague. Workplaces have different support groups as well, signposting to those, signposting to GPs. Being really important to just offer support and not medical advice, unless of course you're trained to do so. And it's about showing empathy and care, and the way we can do that really is by listening non-judgmentally. Being patient, some people will find it very, very difficult to talk about such private matters, and might take some time to open up if indeed they ever choose to. And it's about using appropriate language as well, and signposting to those resources that there might be. So once got some resources to share with you here. These are some resources that we've developed at the Thrive team, which is menopause conversation tips you can download, wellbeing action plan for menopause, and wellbeing action plan for menstrual health. And if you scan on the QR code, that should link directly to those downloads. And just finally, I'm going to share some other resources. CIPD has a lot of information around menopause in the workplace. British Standard Institute have got a great document, the BS 30416, Menstruation, Menstrual Health and Menopause in the Workplace. It's a really good guide. ACAS as well, British Menopause Society, NHS. The DAISY network is particularly for people experiencing premature ovarian insufficiency. Queer menopause is to raise awareness of LGBTQIA plus experience of menopause. There are many menopause doctors, perhaps the most sort of high profile, certainly on social media, and there have been some documentaries at Newson Health, Dr. Louise Newson, and Bloody Good Period is a charity working for menstrual equity. Babita, that BSI number again is BS 30416. And if you just put that into Google, you'll get the you should get the link to be able to download that. Right, so I'm conscious, thank you everyone, that's my contact details are on the screen, but I'm conscious that a few comments have come in since I've been talking. Okay. Elaine, you believe you're going to have some menopause champions, so you will be trained. That's great. Um, yeah, yeah. Thanks, Nina. Yeah, pledges can be, a bit of a tick box exercise at times. I think you're right. You've got to sign up and mean it and do the action. Yeah, Kate, the slides will come to you. And thanks, Nina, for sharing the menopause symptoms questionnaire, which is a checker. Yeah, great. Lovely. Thank you. That is everything from me. So I don't know if there's any final questions, or if there are, I'm happy to sort of hang on. Um, if not, you will get a copy of the slides, and it's being recorded as well. So Joe will be able to direct you to the copy of the recording if you either want to share with colleagues or go back and re-listen.
Thanks, Ali. I'll
Yeah.
I'll send out correspondence to everyone that's signed up, and I'll put a post on LinkedIn. So if you want a copy of the slides or the recording, then just put a comment against the LinkedIn post, and then I'll follow that up. Our next event is on Thursday, 2 days' time, the 16th of January, and is called Taking Action for Wellbeing and Work-Life Balance in 2025. A link to sign up for that will be included in the email. But otherwise, I'd just like to say a massive thanks, Ali, to you for your time and effort in putting the event together, and to everyone for tuning in. It's been really informative, so thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.